Maui.
The legislature is going to be focusing intensely on Maui's recovery. I mean, rebuilding Lahaina is going to be their central focus. We know the governor and legislative leaders have asked for a lot of money. They're looking carefully at how they can convert some of the short-term rentals to long-term rentals, because that's the challenge on Maui right now. Where are folks going to be housed for the long term? So you're going to see intense focus there. I think you're going to see some focus on reducing the cost of living. We know that Governor Green is very keen on pushing what he calls his GAP plan, and that would reduce taxes. The most important part of that would index our tax code to inflation, which would reduce taxes for everybody.
Several other bills that are constants in the Hawaii State Legislature will be back on the table in 2024, cracking down on illegal fireworks. Senators and representatives will be reviewing the Illegal Fireworks Task Force. It was formed last year. They'll have to make a decision on whether or not they want to continue funding that. Another measure that will carry over from last session would increase the number of random inspections for incoming shipping containers. Also, during this presidential election year, Hawaii legislators are also set to consider a measure that could impact how elections are funded. A draft of a measure similar to a bill introduced in the Senate last year that died in session. If candidates could demonstrate adequate support from constituents, the state would provide public money for their campaign. We also asked Colin Moore about recreational cannabis, whether or not this is the year that will finally become law.
The Attorney General released a very important report that kind of showed how Hawaii could implement recreational marijuana, but there's also two things going on. First of all, we're heading into an election year. Lawmakers tend to be more cautious, and I don't see anything that's changed dramatically from last year to this year that would change the mind of those lawmakers who are opposed to recreational marijuana. So I think they're going to consider it, but I don't think this is going to be the year, but I could be wrong.
Colin Moore is talking about a bill that was actually drafted by the Attorney General's office. Attorney General Ann Lopez says she will help the governor's administration, which, by the way, is in support of legalizing recreational cannabis for adults, to find a way forward and a bill that works for everyone. Again, we'll see if that happens, and we will be here talking to lawmakers again about what they hope to accomplish in 2024, coming up on Sunrise Wednesday morning. For now, we'll send things back to you.
Firefighters battled a 2-alarm blaze at the Makalapa Elementary School in Salt Lake this morning. HFD crews got to the scene just after 7 and found one portable unit engulfed in flames. It took about half an hour to get the fire under control, and it was fully extinguished at around 8:35 a.m. No injuries were immediately reported. An HFD investigator and K-9 are currently at the scene conducting an investigation into the cause and damage estimates. The school is currently out of session in observance of the Martin Luther King Jr. holiday. Police are searching for a suspect after a 72-year-old man was stabbed in the back of his neck. It happened last night in the Kaka'ako area at around 8:30. Police say the attack was unprovoked. The victim was wounded just to the left of his spine and was rushed to the hospital in serious condition. No details about the suspect have been available. An attempted murder case is now underway. A man was arrested after an apparent road rage incident involving a gun Saturday morning. According to a witness, the 25-year-old suspect was driving erratically on the Moanalua Freeway in Salt Lake. Another driver, a man in his 50s, allegedly made an offensive gesture toward him. That's when the suspect apparently pointed a firearm at the other driver. The suspect faces a terroristic threatening charge. Honolulu police are investigating after a moped rider said he was jumped by more than half a dozen suspects at Old Stadium Park. The alleged attack happened at around 6 Saturday night. Sources say the victim went into the park to relieve himself near a tree when he was hit on the head with a baseball bat. We're told the suspects got away with his moped. Scores of residents in Leeward, Oahu worry they're going to be out on the street. They say the management of their affordable housing complex announced it's going to be closing. Eddie Dowd has more.
Residents who live at this affordable housing complex here in Maili tell me they were told in December that this place would be closing, but there was no set date. They say in early January they got a letter saying that date would be February 20th, and they had 45 days to find a new home.
Yeah, building C, I live, that's why.
Cindy Tambion is one of roughly 100 residents at Uluke Kukui who are now scrambling to figure out where they'll live next.
It's really frustrating.
Tambion says she used to be homeless for nearly 10 years, only recently finding housing here. Some residents telling us the rent is as low as around $500 a month. Tambion says if she can't find a place in a similar price range, she'll have to go back to living on the beach.
I finally got my own place, after like about 5 years, maybe more. Trying to get my feet stable, and then they're coming up with, they're going to shut down this place, forcing us to go homeless again.
This letter was sent out to residents on January 6, saying in part, quote, "We regret to inform you that despite our extensive efforts to bring awareness to the extreme costs of operations and the importance of timely rent payments, we have been unable to keep up with our expenses here at Ulu Ke Kukui with the rent received," end quote. We reached out for comment from the Hawaiian Community Development Board who manages the property, but did not hear back.
I know plenty of these people, they got nowhere to go. So short notice.
The area state representative says he's talking with the Department of Hawaiian Homelands, who owns the land. He says he's been told the plan is to use the complex to specifically house Hawaiians on the state housing wait list.
It's just complex, right? Because we have to house Hawaiians who are on the waiting list, and ultimately DHHL has the final say on the property. And I think DHHL is doing what they possibly can to make sure that the impact of folks who will be displaced is minimal.
DHHL, in a statement to HNN, says it has advised the Hawaiian Community Development Board, who oversees the property, to comply with any relocation requirements. It's not the first time the property has been in the news. In 2018, before it was an affordable housing complex, HNN reported that it was being used for a transitional housing program for homeless families. And in January of last year, a group of Native Hawaiians showed up to occupy the property, saying the land is meant to house Hawaiians. While the future of the complex remains unclear, the clock is ticking for the current residents to move out. Eddie Dowd, Hawaii News Now.
On Maui, Olowalu has been approved as a temporary dump site for Lahaina wildfire debris. The U.S. Army Corps of Engineers has been preparing the area for several months now, but a Maui County Council vote cleared the way for trucks to start taking debris to the site, which is about 15 minutes down the road from Lahaina. Before the vote, council members heard from residents displeased with Olowalu's selection and fire victims.
It gives hope, right? We need these small little wins to say like, hey, we moving, they're in phase 2. Here we go.
What is being destroyed with this construction cannot be returned back. Are you really okay with that?
The State Land Board has approved the temporary site for 1 year, but that could be extended. The county is looking at around half a dozen potential locations in central and west Maui for a permanent disposal site. 100 days have passed since Hamas attacked Israel, triggering the ongoing war. Now, it is the deadliest and most destructive conflict between Israelis and Palestinians in history. Ian Lee has more.
100 days of war has reduced Gaza to this. Desperate and hungry, Palestinians swarm an aid truck in Gaza City. The UN says many of the territory's 2.2 million residents risk starvation. "We did nothing wrong," cries this boy.
Wake up, world!
The nightmare is felt on both sides of the border. Israelis with loved ones still held hostage demand their release.
It's 100 days of absolute torture and torment for the families who are waiting.
Hamas's brutal attack on October 7th triggered all this misery. Militants stormed into Israel, killing more than 1,200 people and seizing roughly 250 hostages, including children and the elderly. Israel launched an air and ground assault on Gaza, with troops storming cities, fighting militants, and searching for tunnels. While more than 24,000 Palestinians have been killed, according to the Hamas-run Ministry of Health. During a ceasefire in November, Hamas released more than 100 hostages in exchange for more than 200 Palestinian prisoners from Israeli jails. Pressure is building on Israel to wrap up the war. But Israel vows to continue the fight until Hamas is destroyed and the hostages returned home. Ian Lee, CBS News.
Now to a new episode of The Debrief with digital producer Emily Cristobal. She recently sat down with an expert in national security and talked about the impact here in Hawaii. Here's a snippet of that conversation.
In today's episode, we're discussing national security, focusing on recent Chinese cyber attacks that impacted critical U.S. services, including one in Hawaii. For some background, this report came out in December, in which the Washington Post found that China's cyber army is invading U.S. services, specifically targeting power and water utilities, as well as communications and transportation systems. Hackers affiliated with China's People's Liberation Army have hacked into the computer systems of about 24 critical entities over the past year, including an unnamed water utility in Hawaii. Experts say the intrusions are part of a broader effort to develop ways to sow panic and chaos or snarl logistics in the event of a U.S.-China conflict in the Pacific. For more on this, we're joined by Washington Post reporter Ellen Nakashima, who is part of the team of journalists who broke the story. So, Ellen, first, can you walk us through your reporting and share some of the details behind this Chinese hack?
What was notable about this campaign, which Microsoft dubbed Volt Typhoon, is that the hackers, first of all, they got in a very stealthy way, not through email phishing or brute force hacking, but by actually using sort of the tools of like your network administrators, so that once they were inside, they just appeared to be a legitimate user, a legitimate system administrator. But they also covered their tracks by routing their penetration through home devices, almost business devices like routers, firewall, so that people really wouldn't actually catch on to the fact that this is what they were doing. And so it became a little more difficult to detect. But companies like Microsoft, as well as the U.S. government, did manage to detect some of these penetrations, and how Microsoft would sometimes, and other companies, detect evidence of intrusions by seeing the adversaries beaconing from a company or victim's network to the command and control servers used by the Chinese hackers.
To watch and listen to more episodes of The Debrief, head to HawaiiNewsNow.com. This is Emily Cristobal for Hawaii News Now.
Today marks the birthday of Martin Luther King Jr. The civil rights icon would have been 95 today. His birthday is a federal holiday and also designated as a National Day of Service. Skylar Henry reports from Washington, D.C.
Martin Luther King III laid a wreath at his father's memorial on the day of his birthday.
In honor of the memory of Dr. King.
Speaking at an NAACP event in South Carolina, Vice President Kamala Harris said there is still work to do to achieve Dr. King's dream.
We are witnessing a full-on attack on hard-fought, hard-won freedoms. Consider, in states across our nation, extremists attack the sacred freedom to vote.
President Biden visited Philadelphia, where he helped support people who are food insecure.
Literally, as cliche as it is, be the change you want to be.
On this national holiday, everyone is encouraged to give back and volunteer.
The legacy of Dr. King really was rooted in the meaning of service behind it.
At the University of South Carolina, more than 160 students volunteered for service activities.
So we're just going around this area right here and picking up trash and anything else to just clean up the community.
And cities and towns across the country held events like this MLK Day parade in Jacksonville, Florida. Skylar Henry, CBS News, Washington.
All right, let's take a live look outside at the White House, where the temperature is about 57 degrees on this Martin Luther King holiday. Guys, going to have your first alert forecast after this break.
Now things are going to change as this front drops in. Stronger southwest winds tomorrow. Winds are going to be an issue. Southwest winds 15 to 25 with some stronger gusts, right? Especially windy in the upper elevations like Haleakala, Mauna Kea, Mauna Loa. Now we will see some scattered showers probably late tomorrow. Not a lot of rain, right? This is not a big rain event, but you will notice the increase in clouds and showers as well as a warmer air mass. Warmer temperatures coming in tomorrow as well. And then there's a few more showers coming in Sunday from another weak front. So our first alert for tomorrow for the gustier winds and the increased clouds and showers. Wednesday morning could be a little damp before drying out Wednesday afternoon. Look at those winds, 5 to 15 today, 15 to 25 tomorrow, and then slowly easing up. In fact, variable winds take over on Thursday going into the weekend. So it might be a little bit sticky as we head into the weekend, but just be ready for those windier conditions tomorrow.
Well, much of the country has been under a deep freeze this weekend. Several cities experienced record-breaking cold. Omar Villafranca has more.
Across the U.S., millions are hunkering down and trying to stay warm as an Arctic blast bears down on several parts of the country. In Oregon, strong winds reported to have reached 83 miles per hour sent this tree crashing through a home, leaving an elderly man dead. Parts of Maine's coastline saw record-breaking flooding, resulting in high tide that left streets underwater. In Texas, residents weren't taking any chances, leaving shelves at grocery stores empty as temperatures dropped below freezing. A big concern is the state's power grid. Texans are being asked to conserve energy this morning as temperatures remain below freezing.
We feel very good about the status of the Texas power grid and ERCOT to be able to effectively and successfully ensure that the power is going to stay on throughout the entirety of this winter storm episode.
And here in Memphis, officials opened up warming centers as cold temperatures plunge into the teens. The flurries are still coming down here in Memphis. The temperature is about 10 degrees. With the wind chill, it's -3 or -4. Omar Villafranca, CBS News, Memphis, Tennessee.
And speaking of winter weather, the Buffalo Bills recruited community members to help shovel snow ahead of Monday's playoff game against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Some didn't seem to mind the sub-freezing temperatures. The NFL postponed Sunday's playoff game between the Bills and Steelers in the interest of public safety. The game is currently underway on KGMB. The temperature at kickoff was 16 degrees. A federal court has given Apple approval to change a function in its smartwatches so the company can overcome an import ban. The fix would remove a feature Apple marketed as a way for customers to monitor their health. That feature was the pulse oximeter function, a medical scanner that measures the oxygen concentration in the bloodstream. Regulators previously ruled several newer models of the Apple Watch violated patents held by technology company Masimo. According to the filing, U.S. Customs and Border Protection determined Apple's proposed redesign of its smartwatches would allow the company to continue importing them to the U.S. Time for some good news. A Pennsylvania high school basketball team will always remember the game when their teammate with Down syndrome got onto the court to play with them. Antoinette DeBell has the heartwarming story.
This is the moment when 17-year-old Carson VRL steps onto the basketball court to play, his first time since making the team. The crowd is cheering for him. Then Carson gets the ball and takes a shot. He misses but tries again.
I never give up. Hello.
It takes him a few times, but he finally makes a basket. And then 2 more after that. The Deer Lakes High School junior, jersey number 40, on that moment.
It was awesome. I liked it a lot. It's my favorite thing to do.
The Deer Lakes Lancers were playing against Valley High School Friday night. But before the matchup, Carson's teammates came up with a game plan.
He comes every practice, works hard. We talked to the coaches and we're like, let's get Carson in. Carson wanted to play. We wanted Carson to play.
That was awesome, guys. And check it out. It was amazing.
And he went on to score 6 points that night.
They're sending me their videos and I'm crying at work.
Carson has Down syndrome, and his proud mom, Anna, says he's been practicing night and day, waiting for this opportunity.
I've never seen such team collaboration between both teams. And I have to say, Coach Belserio was amazing. He said, let's just put him out there and see what he can do.
And when the game ended, Carson was handing out high fives and hugs, something his teammates won't soon forget.
Just seeing the smile and how happy he was. That hug that he gave me, I'll remember that one for a while. That was a special moment.
Awesome story. And finally today, here's Jeremy Roth with today's Take a Look at This.
Watch a California homeowner's close encounter with a bear found squatting literally and figuratively under her home. It started when Tina Herzog's security camera spotted the large bear milling around her Monrovia property at night. The next morning, Herzog's bear under there saga started.
The crawl space window had been torn off, and I thought, oh no, that bear's in there.
Yep, the big burly bear had cozied up in her crawl space, and no matter what she tried, the stubborn thing just wouldn't budge. She even gave it a stern talking to.
Out, out, and out. Bad bear.
These bears today, you just can't talk to them. In the end, when all else failed, it was mothballs that didn't. Herzog popped some of the pungent pest repellent pellets in, and out the animal came. Apparently, it just couldn't bear the smell. Really? Speaking of cautionary tales, Ohio transportation authorities are sharing one that is no joke. Authorities posted video of a motorist plowing into a city snowplow in Cleveland and say there have already been 3 other similar accidents. They've launched a Don't Crowd the Plow campaign on social media, warning drivers that unless they exercise caution, they'll lose a battle with the 2,500-pound plows every time. Finally, in Iowa, a local artist put the abundance of snow there to good use, crafting a whale of a wintry work of art. Yes, I know it's a shark, but snow puns are hard. Cut me some slack. Residents are loving the artist's surreal and snowy sculpture, and if Mother Nature decides to drop more accumulation, there could be plenty more material to work with. For Take a Look at This, I'm Jeremy Roth.
And thank you for watching. This is Now More News First at 4.